You're listening to the WCHE Morning Show on 95.3 WCHE.
Welcome back to the WCHE Morning Show. I'm Eric Lambera. Joining us in the studio to discuss the status of the East Whiteland Data Center project, we have Kelly Donia. Kelly, welcome back, and thank you for coming on. How you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, great to have you back in the studio here. So, as I mentioned at the top, we're going to be discussing the status of the data center and where things currently stand. So for listeners who haven't been following every twist and turn here, where does this project currently stand today?
Wow, well, there's been a lot of activity. There have been permits that have been approved for just general, like, kind of getting the land kind of ready for building. But what happened was, we have this 2024 land plan that was approved by our township. And the reason we became so active was that we were alerted, first of all, to the data center. We had never been notified, by the way, surrounding. I have a house that abuts to this. I have a business that is on the perimeter. I never received any communication from the township that this was even going on. But so anyway, what has been going on now is they've been trying through the amended plan, which we were in here about. We were fighting about this amended plan. So the amended plan was really taking the 2024 plan and gearing it up so that it could be an AI data center. As it stands right now, the development is really for a smaller, what they call a CPU data center, similar to like an office building with a lot of mainframes in it, which we have all over the township. The amended plan that we fought so hard against in the spring and were able to win really geared the size of the structure up. It geared the strength of the structure up. It geared the amount of electricity that comes through it so that it went to what's called a GPU. And a GPU structure, right, is for what Meta, AI, Amazon, these large, amounts of data and AI functionality. Anyway, so we squashed that, right? We got that. And then what happened, and what's happening now, is that the developer is trying to backdoor the township now. And they're coming up what they are calling field changes. Mm-hmm. Field changes are like when you're out there and you're digging and you find like a line or something that you didn't know existed. And you have to go back to the township and you're like, hey, we didn't even know this was here. In order to deal with this, we have to do X, Y, Z. Will you approve this as a field change? That's a field change. What they're doing is every single thing that they wanted to change in the amended plan, they're now calling a field change. Mm-hmm. And so we had a Board of Supervisors meeting where we were very vocal about it. And honestly... That was the one
this week, right?
No, this was before.
Okay.
And, I mean, I cannot speak for others, but I got the distinct impression like some of our Board of Supervisors were for these changes. Mm-hmm. They've been threatened, I think, by water usage and so forth from the developer. Anyway, we were able to get one Board of Supervisor, Clinton Smith, to say no. And then we had one, our Scott Lambert, who said, I can't vote at this time. There's too much more information I need to consider. So they tabled it. And we had our last Board of Supervisors meeting where it wasn't even on the agenda. They are very much avoiding this. And so we spent the whole public comment of the meeting talking about these. So we're still waiting for our board to either vote these field changes down or approve them. In the meantime, right, there have been deliveries of generators and cranes, and all these other things are happening, and they are not in line with the plan that was approved. So our township needs to act quickly, and if not, the citizens will.
And going off that point, as far as the citizens, I know there's a lot of concerns, whether it be environmentally and health related. What are you hearing from some of your neighbors and people in the community about some of the concerns with the data center?
Yeah, well, let's not even think about the data center. It's being built on a Superfund site. Let's think about that. Okay, so I live across from it, and they're kicking up dust and debris as they're working over there on contaminated soil. So we were uncovering from our right to know. It was never given to us, but through right to knows, we have some great right to know people. Wow, they're amazing. Anyway, some right to knows came up, and there was documentation from the EPA that said that they weren't on board with this. Mm-hmm. But then when questioned further, they said that they didn't have the ability to either say yes or no to a developer or a township. But what happened to give them this pause was they found contamination in the surface water. So before there was contamination in the wells underneath, right? And they did, in 2008, they did soil testing on the surface that showed a level of contamination that they were seeing. They were seeing good movement towards cleaning the soil, right? It wasn't clean, but it was looking better. That was 2008. And after that, they had studies that showed there was contamination in the surface water. So if there's contamination in the surface water, there's probably contamination in the soil. And it's now 2026. And as I explained to the Board of Supervisors, and I'm not a scientist, but what I do know is that, water evaporates. It moves up through the soil. And as it moves up through the soil, anything that's in the water kind of gets filtered through and lands in it. So in order to build on this site safely, no matter what, no matter if you're building, anything, but you need to test the soil on the surface, and it needs to be done by a scientific company that does third-party testing. Has to be mapped out, right? And then from that, they kind of know what soil is clean, what soil isn't. They can deal with the remediation of the soil, and that means actually moving it somewhere else away from the residences. And then as they dig into the soil, they take samples of it from the side of the, dirt and hole and on the bottom of the dirt hole, and they sample that. And then they get a map of where the contamination is or isn't. But this is exactly the reason why the previous developer went bankrupt. They were not able to do this type of testing and remediation. So no one's giving anything to this. Like, no one's even acknowledging it. Even the township is like, well, we just test the amount of dust that gets kicked up, but no one is testing what's in the dust. It's just mind-boggling. So we're watching all of this blowing over us and a daycare center and 2 schools, and no one's doing anything about it.
They were building a community nearby, right? Wasn't it Toll Brothers?
Well, yeah, so Toll Brothers. So my house is actually on the border of West Whiteland and East Whiteland, and the Toll Brothers community is right next to me through an embankment of trees. When they started building, it was really dry in the winter, and we still had snow on the ground, but it was really dry. We had, no lie, our whole yard and house was covered in probably just a quarter inch of soil from the Toll Brothers. It all went brown. All went brown. I mean, it was a big deal. We had the township involved and everything. And the wind traditionally blows that way, right? It blows from the west to the east. And so we got hit hard. So anyone who's east of that data center, or even which is Malvern Hunt, parts of it, is Piper Lane, is Backton Hill, and forward, right? They're all going to get this. Mm-hmm. And it's all residential. And then if you look at the plumes that are created from the underground wells, the contamination goes all the way to Valley Creek and past that east. So townships that are around us, people like Julie Ferris, right, who has made such a big stink, she has a well, and she's going to probably get contaminated. Mm-hmm. So we need to really watch this.
Yeah, I think that's something that you bring up a great point. Not only is it affecting like the immediate area, all the surrounding areas, really a lot of Chester County.
No, Valley Creek is it's a tributary that's on the list of important waterways, and it feeds into, I believe, Brandywine, and that feeds into Schuylkill. Anyway, what Valley Creek water ends up in the Delaware River, and it goes through other tributaries. So it's a thing. We have to really watch this.
For sure. And now I wanted to ask you a little bit about the recent referendum for the November ballot. So residents gathered enough signatures to put a referendum on the November ballot to extend the board from 3 to 5 supervisors. How much of that movement do you think was driven by this frustration over the data center?
100%. 100%. We voted these gentlemen into office, our Board of Supervisors, and they act as our judiciary and our legislative everything. They're the only thing standing between us and the developers that want to develop land. And so, I guess we really thought that they would take a stronger stand. And I think because of their own liability and the township's liability, they've been rather weak. And these are the moments when you have to take a stand and do the right thing, no matter if you're going to be liable for lawsuit or not. If you do the right thing, most of the time, you're going to be okay. And they don't have that fortitude of strength. And so we need people who do. We need people that are willing to stand up between right and wrong. And our township has grown substantially. So having 5 seats, and we have the people to fill them. I know the Democratic Party got all up in arms and all in our face, and they were not for what we were doing. But we have people, and we are for what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's something where, as we've talked about, you want to make sure you're listening to the residents. And so I think going from 3 to 5, makes a ton of sense.
Yes. And, I want to say another thing about listening to your residents. Not only do I think that our Board of Supervisors has worked from a weak position in representing us, I think that the township, the employees at the township, who are very hardworking individuals, I don't want to come down on them too hard. However, they do not understand that they're employed through our tax money. They work for us. They seem to think that they work autonomous to keep the township going. They do keep our township going. They do a lot of great services for our township. But right now, we need them to work for us.
Yeah, very, very important, of course. Now, in terms of the call to action, I know you guys are doing a lot of great work with this. What can residents do if they are concerned about this proposal? And then my second question, if they want to learn more or get involved, how can they do that?
Okay. So we established a GoFundMe page. You can just, go on and search under East Whiteland and you'll see Stop the Data Center. We are moving from a grassroots effort into a very larger, broader legal possibility here. So we need some really good funds. So that is the first thing that you can do. It's Say No to East Whiteland Data Center, GoFundMe. So that's the first thing that people can do. And then we do have a WhatsApp that you can get on and join for the East Whiteland Data Center as well. I think, though, to get less diluted information, because there's a lot of complaining happening, rightly so. People are venting a lot on the WhatsApp. So I think the best way really for people to get into the core group is to actually send me an email, and I can get them in our smaller circle. Okay, so it's Kelly at DoniaDesigns.com. I know that's a lot, but it's Kelly, Kelly, at Donia, Donia, Designs with an S.com. Also look at our Facebook page.
I was going to say there's social media, right?
Social media. No Data Centers on Instagram. Julie Ferris has completely revamped our Facebook page. We have now a publicist and communications specialist as well, and they've been working hard on the Instagram page, so you can message all through that as well.
Yeah, and I think that's very important in terms of getting the word out. That's something that we've been trying to do here, and so I commend you guys for doing that. Now, as we wrap up, did you have any, maybe closing messages or just things you wanted to leave listeners with?
Yeah, I think some people think that, is it already been voted down? And then there's other people that think, there's nothing I can do. It's a done deal. It is not a done deal. We are at a precipice right now where within the next couple weeks, you're going to see a difference. And so I say, don't give up hope. And we need people to be engaged. So connect with all of those ways. Keep up with the information, right? Go to all of the meetings. It's very important that you get on the East Whiteland website and you look and see when the Board of Supervisor meetings are. But to be honest with you, since this all happened, I go to Board of Supervisors meetings, I go to zoning meetings, I go to planning meetings, and I go to the Environmental Commission because they're all wrapped up in this. And at every public comment during those meetings, there's been things said. So get engaged, get involved, and above all, thank you to everyone who has done so, and thank you for having us here.
Yeah, of course. And real quick, in terms of the meetings, they're usually Wednesdays, right? Or does it vary, I guess?
It varies. And you have to, sometimes the information on the website doesn't actually coincide with other schedules that they had made earlier in the year. They'll make a last-minute change. Sometimes they'll broadcast it. You can actually get on their mailing list, and they typically send an email. But honestly, sometimes I don't even get those emails. So I think I'm pretty diligent about when I'm planning my regular schedule for my own personal and work. I kind of have this other side where I'm what's going on in my community this week that I need to be engaged in? And I take it that seriously. This is a big deal. This is going to hit our property value. It could decrease our property value close to
energy prices.
Oh yeah, close to 20%. Most of the homes in East Whiteland are ranging anywhere from $400,000 and above. So if the average is $1 million for a home, right? You're going to lose $200,000 right there. And then you're right, utility prices, water. Oh, can I say one thing about water usage? The old plan, as has been approved, was not approved by Aqua.
I did read that. Well, that was, I did see that.
They came out right and said, you don't have enough water. There's no way we can give it to you. If you do this, you're going to have a water tower. You're going to have, water tankers. You're going to have your people coming in daily, water trucks delivering water. And that's another reason why they want to make the change, because they won't be able to find anyone to take this land, any AI to lease it if they've got this old plan. It's not viable. So we need to stick with that. We need to hold to that. And so that's something else that needs to be talked about a lot. They don't have the water for it. I wouldn't be surprised. This is such a big development that the developer has been able, and not Charlie Ledane, who's the local developer. I think this is more of Sentinel, who is a New York developer, or even behind them is probably money that has connection with our utilities. I wouldn't be surprised if Aqua comes out with a letter this week saying, oh, you know what? We can figure this out. But it's after the fact. It hasn't been approved.
Right, and they came out with the notice originally on that. Now, one more thing in terms of the meetings, if someone can't attend, is there Zoom options? I know least for the last one.
There is a Zoom option, and sometimes you're allowed to give public comment. Sometimes you are not. This last meeting that was held, it was a packed room, and they were not able to allow for public comment for whatever reason. So you could listen, but you could not speak. And honestly, you need to be there in person. It's important.
Right. No, absolutely. And Kelly, really appreciate you coming on and appreciate the hard work you're doing. And as always, if you ever have any updates, even if you want to call in, you couldn't make it in, we're always happy to have you on here.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Take care.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.